like getting a snotty art instructor for this one. Little disclaimer at the beginning of this video, I approach oil painting in a way that's a little bit different from your traditional oil painter because I like to avoid the icky chemicals as much as I possibly can because they gross me out. I approach oils in a much less toxic waste zone sort of way. You can totally paint the traditional way safely, but I prefer to approach it a little bit differently. So this is a disclaimer before I start and you're like, this isn't what I've heard of before. If you're doing my tutorials with me, or if you want to approach oil painting in a way that's maybe a little less yucky on the gunk, this might be the video for you. This is mostly a video for beginner oil painters who've never really picked up oil paints before. Maybe you're coming from acrylics or watercolor or something else. But if you are an oil painter and you're just curious about the supplies that I use, I'm gonna show you right now. Let's chat about supplies. Obviously, we need oil paints to start. So what I use most often in my favorite oil painting brand and series, oh jeez, I'm just throwing them all over the place. Artist Oil Color by Windsor Newton. This is their professional grade. Just a little background, there's a few different grades of paint. The more pigment that's in them is usually the more expensive and professional they are. Paints that have a little less pigment and a little more binder, which is the gunk that holds the colors together, those tend to be a little cheaper and a little more transparent, which is why I go with the more quality colors. But I also am like pretty deep into oil painting and I take it very seriously, so I don't mind kind of spending a little extra pretty penny on some oil paints, and these can be like $15 a tube depending on the color. They're pretty pricey and they're itty bitty too. If you're just starting out, you don't really need these really fancy pants professional paints. Bare minimum colors that I like to use. These are like, honestly, I use these colors the most out of any colors, and it's basically primary colors and then white. Like, you don't really need much more than that, especially if you're just starting out, because you should be practicing mixing and getting colors and all that kind of stuff. But my preferred colors for oils with this specific line of paints is, you can't even tell because this tube is so almost gone, but this is French Ultramarine. You can see the color on the back. There you go. French Ultramarine, Windsor Red Deep. I really like this as a red color in the series. Indian Yellow, and Titanium White, my ride or die. I also have a giant tube of it, which I think this is like $40. Woo! But Michael's Crafts hooked me up. Thank you, Michael's. So those are the colors I like to use if you want to go a little bit extra. I also really love to have a quinacridone magenta for like those pinky purpley kind of colors that I like to have in my paintings. But really, red, blue, yellow, white, whatever colors of those work for you. You can get the exact same ones that I had. You can pick your own. It's all good. But again, those Windsor Newton Artist series are kind of pricey. Windsor Newton also has a great alternative to the really expensive, their Winton series. These paints are just a little less expensive. They're still really great quality. Stay there. If you're a beginner and you're looking for a set just to like kind of get started, I really, really love this set by Ronnie. I've got a Michael's haul video that you can check out, me unboxing those guys. They're obviously a beginner paint, so they're not crazy pigmented, but I was pretty impressed with their quality, and these are cheap. I did this painting right here of some sparkly water with all these paints. So like, you can make some cool stuff with just cheap paint. What else I like about them is that they give you great primary colors to start off with. They've got cyan, lemon yellow, I can't read, titanium white, raw umber, which I don't use very often, but I ended up using in this painting and I really liked it, and rose madder. These are a great set if you're just getting into oil paints. They were like 25 bucks for these massive, like these paint tubes are twice as big as those itty bitty ones that are in the Artist Oil series by Windsor Newton. So if you're looking for just a set, you just want to kind of get into them, these $25 running ones, I'll put a link in the description to where you can get these too. Just obviously have some kind of oil colors. You don't need a bajillion colors. Just have primary colors and a white and you're gonna be totally good. And then let's talk brushes. So brushes can be super confusing. Like you walk into an art store and they're like, these ones are for oils and these are for watercolor and these are for acrylics. And I'm like, bleh. I like to pick my paintbrushes by feel. So I really like synthetic bristle brushes. They're very, very soft, which is why I like them so much. I really like having a soft brush, but they still have a little bit of, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, they still are fairly firm. So when you press on them, they still go straight and have a little bit of bounce to them. They don't go straight down. Let me see if I have a bad one. But I don't want, these bristles, they're soft and synthetic, but when you press on it, it doesn't take very much pressure for it to go all the way down, which I prefer not to use. I like them to have a little bit of body to them. I like to use all different kinds and sizes. I don't really have go-to shapes that I use all the time. I want a variety, so I want flat brushes, I want little angled brushes, I want really tiny little liner brushes, I want filbert brushes, I want brown brushes, I want a whole plethora. This might be a time where you go for kind of like a value set that gives you an array of different brush types. You can use whatever brush you want. These are just my preferences. A requirement for me for oil painting is having some palette knives to mix your paints with. If you mix your paints with your brush when you're using oil paints, the oil paint gets like caked up into the brushes. Whereas with acrylics, I'll still use a mixing palette knife. I'll occasionally mix with my brush. With oils, I don't really want to mix with my brush very often because it's not good for my brushes and I'm already terrible taking care of my brushes, so like, the less trauma I can put on my brushes, the better. So I like to mix using a palette knife. I've got a bunch, but I really only use this size. This is a Liquitex Freestyle. It doesn't have any number on it. I gravitate towards it. And then of course, you're gonna need something to mix on. My favorite thing is a glass artist's palette. This makes cleaning really easy, like really easy. I love this thing. It's got little rubber, little feet, so I don't slice my hand open on the glass, I guess. I don't know where I got this. I'll find some link for this somewhere, so I'm gonna put it in the description for you if you're interested in doing this. This is my favorite thing, but again, it was a little bit pricier. So you can also use a palette by just putting some wax paper down. I've got like a little like plastic easy clean thing. If you don't want to spend money on like a fancy one, you can literally go to the dollar store and get a picture frame and use that as your palette. I got that art hack from Robin Sealark like 4 years ago and it changed my life. And I had a palette picture frame from the dollar store for like 3 years and then I broke it fairly recently, so I got myself a fancy thing. But a picture frame would work great as a palette for mixing your oil paints. The glass palette makes it really easy to remove your oil paint with a little scraper knife. This is just a razor blade with a safety handle on it. I think my wife got this for me at Home Depot. It's really, really nice. So I don't feel like I'm gonna slice my fingers off, but I can really scrape off any dried oil paints. You have to paint on a primed surface with oil paints so that the oil doesn't soak into your surface if you're painting on wood or paper or canvas or whatever. It needs to be primed with gesso. A lot of things come pre-primed, like every canvas I buy comes pre-primed so I don't have to gesso it. I really like to paint on little wood panels, but to be able to paint on this with oils, I need to gesso it first and then sand it down so that none of the oils I don't understand why I'm such a butterfingers today. So whatever you paint on, make sure it's primed, but as long as it's primed, you can paint on wood panels. I've got pre-primed boards, I've got canvases, obviously. There's a stuff called canvas paper, which can be great to like sketch oil paint on. But again, just make sure that it's primed or gessoed and you're good to go. And then we get into the topic of brush cleaning. So for me, my essentials for cleaning your brushes with oils is brush soap and water and paper towels. And that's it, all I use. So this is probably gonna be a little controversial, but let me just show you. Got my paper towel, I got my brush cleaner, and I got my water. So I talked deep about this in my oil painting safety video from a few years back. So if you want more detail, go check that out. Again, link will be in the description. But what I do for my oil paints is that once I'm done with a color, or I'm done painting with that brush for the day, I'll wipe off as much paint as I possibly can on a paper towel. And then, that's my alarm telling me to eat breakfast. I will! Give me a second, I'm working. And once all the excess paint is wiped off on a paper towel, I'll take it, put it in a little bit of water, swish it around in my Master's brush cleaner. I've got a big thing, they make small ones, but I've just got a big one because obviously I use it a lot. I'll swish it around in here, get it all caked up with soap. I'll wipe it off on a paper towel, get it wet again, kick it all up with soap until it's looking really nice and clean. It is more labor intensive, but that's my like essentials. However, traditionally, people use solvents, paint thinners, turpentines, and mediums to paint with their oil paints. This is something that I used to do, but it's icky and it stank. It's like, so when I first started oil painting, I used Odorless mineral spirits. Odorless, quote unquote, it stank. It's so stinky. I want to open it up to show you what's in here, but like, oh boy. It really, like, you open it up and it's so powerful. So Odorless mineral spirits, I think the brand that I use is called Mona Lisa. And what that does is when you swish your paint around in there, all of the pigment and binder from the oil paint just falls off easy. Just like immediately falls off because of the chemicals. So then you can very easily switch between colors. You can also thin your paints down for it if you want it to be a little bit thinner. I can't do it. I can't do it. There's nothing wrong with you using these. And I have used it before and I've made great paintings, but I've also made great paintings without it. But just to let you know, if it's something that you do want to get into, it's not essential for me, but it's essential for some people, which is why I'm talking about it. Odorless mineral spirits in a little like plastic container at your craft store. And then I got this little glass container by Silly Coil. It's basically a glass jar with a coil at the bottom, and the coil lets you like scrape the brushes off really easy, and so all the pigment falls off. Oh God, and I want to show you what's in here, but when I open it up, it smells so bad. I already smell it. Ugh. Okay, so there's this coil in here, so you can brush your brush in there, and all of the pigment easily falls off, and you can see the, I don't know if you can even see the liquid in there. It's nasty. Okay. Oh my God, and like the whole room smells like it now. Ah. It makes it really easy to clean your brushes off. To me, it's not worth it at all. I do not like it. And then as far as mediums go, some people don't like how thick oil paints can be. So you can add things like linseed oil. I don't even think I have any linseed oil. And linseed oil is totally safe. I think like actually, I think you could probably cook with it. Like it's totally safe, natural thing. However, it is like a gnarly fire safety issue. Like stuff piles on top of it and it gets hot, it can spontaneously combust. Again, check out my oil painting safety video. I don't use it. I like to paint with thicker paint just like the way I paint. The one medium that I do occasionally use, and it's not on my essentials list because I often don't use it, but if you do want to try out a medium, the label's not on it anymore, but this is called Liquin by Windsor and Newton, the same brand as my favorite oil paints. And what it is a flow improver, and it speeds up dry time. So with oil paints, they dry a lot slower than acrylics. So if you wanted to speed up just a little bit by like a day or two, Liquin is great for that. And if your paints are just a little too thick, you want them to thin out a little bit, if you want to do some glazing or anything like that, this is great. It is a little chemical-y and a little icky, but the thing about it is that a little bit goes such a long way. So I can take just the tiniest little bit on there, put it on my palette, close it up, and it really is like a much more minimal way to use chemicals. But again, I often don't use this, so don't feel like you need to get this. If you do feel like you're struggling with the flow of your oil paints, give it a try. I get lots of questions about like, why aren't you using medium when you're painting with oils? It's because just my method doesn't need it, just so you know. Okay, I think that's everything. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anything, fingers crossed. Oh, just if you want it too, I like to have a little easel. It just makes it easy for me. This is a tabletop easel I got at my local craft store. I've also got a big easel. Right there. Which I also like. It's not required, but I like to have an easel because it makes my painting process really easy. Those are your essential and kind of non-essential, but some people would say it was essential, oil painting materials. If you have any more questions about oil painting, let me know. If you want more videos about oil painting, let me know. It is my favorite medium. I'd be more than happy to talk about it more. I tend to make a lot of videos about acrylics because that's where beginners start to learn, and I have a lot of beginner people following my stuff, so I want to make sure I'm catering to that. But if you're interested in oils, let me know. They're my favorite. I love them. If you like my channel and like what I do and want to support me, I do have a Patreon with some cool rewards. But let me know your thoughts. and I'll see you in the next video.